bad prose, what you gonna do when the Prose Police are coming for you? Bad prose.
Happy, and I still love it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So, as I said, we are doing... Lauren, you have arrived. Good, you are just in time for your...
Yay!
So,
Awesome.
the Immortal Kiss. I will share my screen here again.
Yeah, no notification from YouTube. Yeah, darling, that's because we had to here because our house got burned down by a kitty.
Mm-hmm. Knocking over candles and shit. This
Yep.
is why I'm not a cat person.
No.
All right, Caitlin, you see that?
No, it's not up yet.
Mm-hmm. Now do you see it?
No.
It says you are sharing another application window. Okay, hang on. Let me redo it here. Yes, Lauren,
What?
we are Prose Policing your book.
Yes, we are, darling.
Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, when they belong to other people.
Okay,
There
now
it is. There it is.
Thank you. Jeez. Oh
yes,
man,
it just
that
took
was
it. And
such
it
a
just
stressful. Oh, I need a whole barbecue chip to get over
need
that.
a whole barbecue chip. Hello, Nicole. Hi.
I know, what's the measure?
Yay! Looks like we got a full house tonight.
Excellent.
Yay!
Welcome back, friends. Okay.
Welcome back.
Let's get into this.
All right.
Hunted. The Immortal's Kiss. Oh, it's the Immortal's Kiss. My apologies. Wait, does it say...
Someone read it to us wrong.
Yes. Okay. Liking the layout. Ooh. Many chapters. Many chapters. Okay.
Yeah.
Prologue. Let's do this one paragraph at a time, shall we, Caitlin?
Yes.
Now, that is something that needs to be corrected. But we'll get to that. Okay. One paragraph at a time. Prologue. The gentle, warm October air scattered the fallen red and brown foliage around the outskirts of the park's entrance. A wooden post with a metal link held a sign that read Greenwood Park. Blue spruce trees outlined the park with cobblestone paths, with wooden benches leading to a wooden pier overlooking the lake and abandoned tool shed. I like that descriptive language.
It's very picturesque. I am able to see everything.
Yeah, and it's picturesque. There's a lot of description fit in there, but it wasn't too wordy by any stretch. Like that really painted a full picture in not too many words.
Oh, we're doing Prose Police, Sammy.
Oh, do we have Sammy in the... Oh, what's up, Sammy?
We do have Sammy. Yeah, we're doing Prose Police. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, we read through viewers' submissions of things and then we critique them.
And if we don't have a viewer submission, we'll just go on Amazon and find something.
Yes.
There's no shortage of things to rip apart.
Exactly.
So yeah, I like that first paragraph. Descriptive language, pretty damn good. And nice and succinct, which I like. Yeah. Teens strolled through the park with arms linked, clothed in pastel sweaters and earth-toned scarves, sipping coffee. Perched on one bench sat a tall man, appearing to be in his late 20s. His shoulder-length black hair swept over his left side, held back with gel. His round amber eyes studied the passing strangers carefully. He crossed his long, elegant arms over the middle of his black jacket, feeling his abdomen muscles clenched with hunger. Okay. So here's one problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
That should be abdominal muscles.
Yeah.
That would be the proper word there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of a man's arms, I do not think of elegance. So
No, because that portrays the person to be somewhat effeminate when you use that kind of a word.
So unless this male, and it could be this male character is supposed to be effeminate.
Yeah.
But
or he's
if he's not supposed to be effeminate, I now think he is because
right.
of that.
Yeah, because I'm now picturing lanky and androgynous.
Right. Correct. Now we have a continuing of setting the tone with the description and the descriptive language. All that's good. His shoulder length swept over his left side, held back with gel. I'm also because it's specifically stated to be held back with gel, and we say his long, elegant arms. I'm picturing like a really weird looking dude right now.
Yeah, I'm picturing somebody like very emo. You know what I mean? Like a really skinny, possibly like, well, she said he was what, like 20 something?
Did she say his age?
Yep, in his late 20s.
Late 20s, yep.
So this is like a late 20-year-old, probably youngish looking dude who's very emo. Ooh, Sammy. Yes, we'll hear from the editor in the audience. Dignified or discerning arms.
Again, if we're trying to convey a more masculine character.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Third paragraph here. His long, slender white fingers swept a stray red leaf from his black dress pants. Glancing up to meet the wandering gaze of a passing young blonde woman in her early 20s, he flashed her a wry grin, watching her round cheeks redden in embarrassment. The pain in his chest returned, causing him to bite on his bottom lip to subdue the ache. Food was easier to come by back. Oh, that's supposed to be that's a typo. It's supposed to be then. So food was easier to come by back then when times were simpler. Women flocked to me, he thought, thinking of the evening of his transformation. So other than that typo, I don't have any problems with this paragraph necessarily.
Yeah.
We again get pretty good descriptive language. I like the use of the word rye. I don't see that word enough.
Yeah. It seems to be dripping in aesthetic. Very much because it concentrates a lot on, color and texture in the prose. But I will say, though, my only criticism as far as characterization goes, it says that he's a late 20-something, but he's being portrayed like he's either late teens or early 20-something.
Well, making a distinction between early 20s and late 20s is kind of a anal retentive thing to go after, in my opinion, Kate, because a lot of people act 20 when they're 50.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. The streets of London were barren with the air thick.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm going to finish the paragraph, but that already is something that tripped me up. The streets of London were barren with the air thick with smog, turning the city's skyline into a murky fog. A layer of ash dusted over the city streets. covering the surface of cars, buses, and buildings, adding a layer of grime to the luscious city. Many trash cans, many trash cans were ablaze to keep the homeless warm in the rigid September nights. A young man in his late 20s climbed a charred fire escape, leading to the roof of what was once a red granite apartment complex. Okay, so again, I really like the descriptive language. The way she uses descriptive language, it all comes alive very quickly.
Yeah.
So in this first line of this paragraph, however, I do want to specifically say, with the air thick with tripped me up like that. The double with in that sentence, I was like,
Yeah.
It like made me tongue tied, but in my own head. So
yeah, and
I would probably say, oh, I'm sorry, Caitlin, I just wanted to finish my thought. So
okay,
I would
go
probably
ahead.
say the air was thick with smog,
Mm-hmm.
or the air, or you could put a little bit of a poetic bend on it and say the air so thick with smog.
Mm-hmm.
So that would just find a way to get rid of that extra with right there. Your thoughts,
Yeah.
Kate?
I would agree because it does create a bit of a tripwire, verbally speaking. So any way to restructure that where you wouldn't have to have the second with, I think would be prudent. But otherwise, I do like the fact that it is, as I said before, dripping in aesthetic. So, and a lot of people aren't able to do that.
Yeah, the whole thing is, again, the picture is very well painted. So one thing, this is a colorful usage of language that caught my eye.
Yeah.
Many trash cans were ablaze to keep the homeless warm in the rigid September nights. I like the word ablaze, and it's one of those words that just has a naturally poetic flavor to it because it's not really overused, and yet it paints such a instant mental picture. When we think of homeless people hunched over, I mean, you can see it in your head because of all the scenes right out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Homeless people hunched over trash cans, warming their hands. I see the fingerless gloves. One of them's holding 40 of malt liquor. Like it's just such a good little detail to include that instantly makes the reader flesh out the rest of the scene on their own.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this on my channel. When you can include language that instantly evokes other thoughts in the reader, that is how you hook readers. That is what makes them form emotional attachments to your story. When you use language that makes them instantly go on a thought tangent and fill in gaps in your story, it hooks people like that. So it's great stuff.
It's kind of like what Stephen King talked about in On Writing when he was talking about how to be able to pack a lot of description into a very small amount of words. He said this is why it's very important. Vocabulary is one of the most important things in your writer's toolbox.
Absolutely.
He said, learn a new word a day if possible, because it will help you out. He said, but learning symbolism, and simile are also things that are very important because it helps you to be able to tether what you're saying to other things. Like a scene that he read as an example was comparing a hole in the wall bar to a cave, and then how he was able to continue the metaphor by comparing the mirror behind the bar to like water that you would find in a distant cave because, water attracts light and all that other stuff. But basically it filled in the whole rest of the picture with only using maybe one sentence.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And just to go into what you said about him encouraging, I need to be in frame. What he said about encouraging the use of symbolism and simile, Couldn't agree with that more. And that's why in my ratings, when I do book reviews, messaging and symbolism is an entire category in and of itself. Because what you're trying to say with a story is just as important as how well the story is told. You know, no one wants to read a story about a cat who coughed up a hairball, and that's literally the whole point of the story, unless your writing is so colorful and exaggerated that it's humorous. And the point of the story is to make people laugh.
Right.
But generally speaking, people don't like meaningless stories. That's why a lot of the crap coming out of Hollywood these days is instantly forgotten about.
Or Trad Pub.
Or Trad Pub. Damn. The greatest story never told. What?
Yeah.
Okay, Barry. If you think a cat coughing up the hairball is the greatest story never told, Barry,
well, hey,
I'm going to need you to write it and send it to us, and we'll police it.
Yes, we will police your story, Barry. And well, I don't think Lauren would mind too much if you were to narrate the story about the hairball, because she loves hearing your voice.
I like to think it's not totally annoying.
No. Nothing annoying about it at all. And she also said, I've been told I need to work on catching echoes. That's the thing about the width. Yep. Yeah. Because those echoes have a tendency to work like a boomerang as far as readers are concerned. And they come back and they slap you in the face. And you're like, why? She said that she liked the paragraph. Ah, well, you are very welcome. That is why we do this. And Ablaze was really good and made me think of poetry, which I'm going to say, that's another thing. Writing shorts and writing poetry are two very important things to learn how to do if you want to be able to pack a lot of symbolism and simile.
Yes. Dances with Tomahawks. Is that an actual story, or Barry, or are you just saying strange things again? But yeah.
We never know.
We never know with Barry. That's okay.
Yeah. We love you anyway.
Right. Yeah. Every comment section needs the silly delinquent.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing about poetry, I couldn't agree with Kate more. And in my own writing, one of the things that I really like about my own writing, not to stroke myself off too hard, but I transition between being really matter of fact and here's what's happening and here's what's going on to being very poetic and insightful like that. And I think my reviewers would agree with that, and Caitlin certainly would.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable skill to attain. Very hard to master. I wouldn't even call myself a master, even though I am very good at it. But if you can learn to seamlessly switch between the matter of fact of the story, and of course you still don't write your prose in bland language, but you want it to be, as bland as it needs to be to move the story along, because you can only have so much flour in your prose before it gets to bog down the actual pace.
Right.
Unless, of course, you're a romance writer, because Shelley spent like 3 pages describing the side of a fucking mountain.
But the thing about that, though, and I will fight to the death anybody that argues with me about this, but there was purpose behind that.
Oh, yeah, there was purpose behind it.
It's not like Catherine Marshall and Christie.
She was establishing character. Yes, it was good description of a mountain for 3 pages, but it was still description of a goddamn mountain for 3 pages.
But the thing is, though, it was describing, it was setting a tone for, hey, here is the flip side of the coin of, yes, nature is harsh, but she's also beautiful. Poetry is a great thing to help with prose. It teaches you to put meaning and details into very small space. I'm going to start putting more of my poetry on my channel. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, do it. And I have some content in the works to do the exact same thing, Sammy. So yes.
More for poetry. Oh, and to answer your question from earlier, We have a whole segment just for poetry. So if you want to submit something, Sammy.
That was a surprise.
Well, well. But she asked if she
More punishment.
if she
More
could.
punishment.
Okay. Oh well, let's just add that to the list then.
Add that to the list.
I will never be the same. Anyway.
Nature is brutal and savage, Barry. That is correct. All right, we have time.
Yes.
we kind of went on some tangents there, but we have time. Okay. Let's do one more paragraph.
Okay.
And this one's a little bit chunkier, so
yeah.
All right. Okay. Also, oh yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to grant. This last sentence in the last paragraph we read. A young man in his late 20s climbed a charred fire escape leading to the roof of what was once a red granite apartment complex. Again, graded. So that sentence perfectly illustrates what I've been saying about this the whole time, where we pack a bunch of really good visualization into a pretty short space. A young man in his late 20s climbed a charred fire escape. That paints an instant picture. Then leading to the roof of what was once a red granite apartment complex. So we get a description of the whole scene, and then we have the what was once, and so and we know from earlier that he's climbing a charred fire escape. So we know this apartment complex burned down. So that sentence creates a little question all by itself. Well, what the fuck happened to that place?
Right.
There's a lot of internal questions a reader could have packed in that very short sentence. It's really that's exactly what I've been talking about the whole time. It's really good. Okay. Now this next paragraph here. A thud reached his ears as a cloth bag fell from his hands, landing at his feet. Inside the bag were a few newspaper clippings of London and a faded black and white photograph of him and his family. His father dressed in a military uniform. His mother and younger sister both wearing evening gowns in shades of green and purple. Like those below him, he had no home and was admiring the night sky, his hands resting at the nape of his neck, with his fingers intertwined, nestled against his shoulder-length black hair. Lost in surveying the city beneath him, he couldn't see the window behind him, studying his movements. Oh, wait, I said the window, not I apologize. He couldn't see the shadow. I said window. He couldn't see the shadow behind him, studying his movements. That makes much more sense and is also quite ominous. So A+ on that.
Yeah, to be like, wait, this is not a window.
I don't know what my brain was doing there. Okay, so
it would be less scary if it were a window.
Much less. Okay, but overall, that is again a pretty damn good paragraph.
Yeah.
A thud reached his ears as a cloth bag fell from his hands. So that's a good illustration of what I've been talking about. That borderline poetic prose, where it makes an action sound a little bit less mundane than it actually is, but it's a very clear picture of what is happening. Great example. And that's just because, a thud reached his ears. When, that the reached his ears is what makes that a little bit poetic, just so that's perfectly clear. That's a somewhat flowery way of describing the action of hearing.
Yeah.
And then landing at his feet inside the bag were a few newspaper clippings of London. So here, newspaper clippings of London. We get the scene. We get the location of all these scenes finally. And a faded black and white photograph of him and his family. That also gives us a clue potentially as to the time period. His father dressed in a military uniform. That's great. Then we get a brief description of his mother and sister, which is kind of obligatory, but doesn't add too much to it by itself. Like those below him, he had no home and was admiring the night sky. Again, beautiful. Like those below him. And the symbolism there is so good. I actually just want to talk about that symbolism for a second.
Yeah.
So he's climbed up on top of this building and he's looking down over these people, but they're just like him. So the symbolism there is he's up here elevated above the rest of the people, but everyone he's looking down upon is still in the same boat as him.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's that all of that packed into that one little sentence. It's very good.
Yes.
Very nice. And then lost in surveying the city beneath him, he couldn't see the shadow behind him studying his movements. And again, that is, again, lost in surveying the city beneath him.
Mm-hmm.
Borderline poetic. I like the use of the word surveying.
Mm-hmm.
And the term and saying he was lost in that usage. I've always liked that usage of saying he's lost in this or she's lost in that. It's a good poetic usage. Caitlin, your thoughts?
I would say that I like how this entire thing really, except for the slight trip up in the beginning, I would have to say that the usage of prose in this whole thing is really good as far as setting up, like I said before, the aesthetic. You get somewhat of the character build. It's okay, Sarah. Also, like you were talking about, the fact that it brings up a whole bunch of questions, which
subtle questions.
Yeah, very subtle questions, which is very important if you are trying to set up a way for your reader to want to continue to read the book in order to have those questions answered.
Right. Yeah, and when people are talking about setting up questions for your reader to want answered, I see occasionally people act like there's two separate schools of thought. You can do one big question or a bunch of little questions, and I reject that out of hand. You should do both. And I've never understood why some people want to do just the big question and then jump right into an action scene. Well, actually, I do know it's because there's an instant gratification market.
Right, yeah.
But,
and it's like, get a clue, guys. Those people don't read.
Well, the problem is they do not read things that are good.
Right. Or they use Speechify apps and have it cliff noted to them. Or
they do audiobooks.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong listening to a narrated story. And I don't think there's anything wrong with consuming your stories through narration, but it is a different hobby than reading. Yes. Reading is its own part of the brain. So unless you have something else to add. Oh yeah, and there was one. So Barry, really quick, do you want to elaborate what you mean by less info dumps? Because I don't really think we got an info dump here. So if you're talking about in here, I'm curious what you mean by less info.
Well, he did mention flash fiction. And then there were comments. And then he said less info dumps. So I'm taking the context to be
that he's saying
there are less,
and there's less info dumps.
Less info dumps. And practicing the art of flash fiction does help.
Oh yeah, if that's the point he was making, yeah.
Then if that is the point that you were making, sir, very, very good advice without having to expound on that point too much. Or we could just be making you sound smarter than you are.
We could be. If we just made you sound smarter than you are, don't feel the need to let it, just let it ride. Buddy.
Yeah, just let it ride, man. Exactly.
We'll
and Lauren says, I feel better about my writing now.
Well, I'm glad we could help out. Oh, and before we close the segment, there was one final thing to mention, and this isn't about the writing. The file I'm looking at here, guys, you have chapter 1, but then we have a blank page with just the letter T at the beginning, and then another start for chapter 1 on the page right below. Those are pages 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's like the formatting got messed up, and we don't know if you guys were aware of that.
Right. So,
because if not, whoever your formatter is, let us know, and we will take them out and horsewhip them in public.
We will flogulate them.
Yes.
They will be flogulated.
They will be, they will be farting in reverse by the time we get done with them.
Okay, God damn it. I can't take you anywhere. Oh, God. Okay, so it looks like Barry has agreed with the point we made for him. Flash fiction, stories, and novellas.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
It's important to read a wide range of work to make writing better. Yes. Yes. Listen to the literary physician. She knows what she's talking about.
Yep.
Oh, no.
They were not aware. They got. Yeah, we are sorry to hear that. That is really shitty. People would do that to you guys. We are happy to help out with that, and hey, publishing company, maybe.
Hey, we could recommend them. We could recommend them to Kat. She does formatting.
And Kat does formatting, and we
got connections. We can
have to be happening too much longer. Okay, all right. That's the thing.
That's the thing, and the stuff. Are you gonna play the?
That's right. I have to do it again.
Yes, you have to do it because you didn't send it to me.
I did send it to you.
You did not.
Well, we are gonna go back in the Facebook chat, and it's gonna be right there.
No, it's not.
I'm gonna point, and I'm going to look at you menacingly.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's good. Yeah.
Menacingly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Sammy says this is fun. I agree.
Are you looking at my screen? Good.
Prose, what you gonna do when the Prose Police are coming for you? Bad prose, bad prose.
I can't even enjoy how campy that was because of how mad I am.
Whatever.